My name is Ian Rumanyika, and here I serve as a Public and Corporate Affairs Manager in the Commissioner General's office. The journey of Uganda Revenue Authority started way back in 1991 when it was formulated by the Act of Parliament. In fact, this year, on 15th September, we'll be making 29 years old. That tells you that on 15th September 1991, that's when Uganda Revenue Authority was formulated, following the enactment of Parliament law that we were supposed to be an independent institution, agency, in charge of collecting revenue, but also facilitating trade, cross-border trade, across all our borders. And we have had a very, very long journey. I think by that time, you remember, we used to have graduated tax, hard tax. Even in the colonial time, we used to have a tax called the gun tax. We have evolved, things have changed since then. Allow me shortly to highlight on when hat and gun tax were formulated. That was 1900. They were introduced through the Uganda Agreement. That is the hat and gun tax. And the first tax legislation was introduced in 1919 under the local authorities then. Thereafter, of course, prior to the establishment of URA, tax administration changed, and there are taxes that we introduced, which include income tax, pay as you earn, withholding tax, value-added tax. Of course, there has been also a tax called stamp duty, and there are customs duties as well, import duties when you import goods into the country. We have had various administrative changes at Uganda Revenue Authority. I remember in 1991, when URA was formed, the first Commissioner General was an expatriate, was from Ghana, Mr. Labisho. And the Commissioner General was then, 1991, was there for 3 years. And then we had another Commissioner General now who was Ugandan, Mr. Eli Rwakakoko. And then we had another one who was a lady, white lady, we'll remember the name. And then we had Commissioner General Mrs. Allen Kajina in 2005. Then, of course, Uganda Revenue Authority used to be called the den of thieves. You remember? The image was too bad because we had lots of corruption and integrity issues. But in 2005, when they appointed Mrs. Allen Kajina, she came and restructured the organization and put some sanity into the organization, because collection of revenue as a mandate of URA is based on the behavior or the mindset of the taxpayer. So the Commissioner General then started with a strategy of making sure that she changes the image or reputation of Uganda Revenue Authority if we are to get voluntary compliance of the Ugandans. And since then, I think the name drastically changed, and Uganda Revenue Authority has been pro-people, has been pro-taxpayers through their strategy. And thereafter the 10 years of service of Allen Kajina, we had a Commissioner General called Doris Akol. And she came in 2014, 2014-2015 financial year, and she has served 5 years. And now we have a new Commissioner General called Mr. Musinguzi Rujoki John. We started collecting 150 billion in 1991. There has been a tremendous growth of revenue, over 1,000% growth. In fact, last financial year, we collected 16.72 trillion. Imagine from 150 billion to 16.7, that is 16,000 billion. So that's the percentage growth we've been able to do. We have, of course, seen a growth of the taxpayer register, but most importantly, in the way we do business, in the way we relate with the taxpayers, in terms of digitalization of taxation, use of data and artificial intelligence to make sure that we know where the taxes are, but also, most importantly, to improve our service delivery to the taxpayer. The taxpayer then was looked at as a taxpayer, but these days, the taxpayer is a client because we look at the taxpayer as a person who gives us business. Without that business, then we are no more. So at Uganda Revenue Authority, we are a client-focused organization, and we have basically made sure that we lessen the cost or reduce the cost of doing business on the side of the taxpayer to make sure that we increase the curve of being voluntarily compliant, because it's more convenient on our side and on the side of the taxpayer when the taxpayer is voluntarily complying than us enforcing on them. It must be also noted in this discussion that our tax system at Uganda Revenue Authority is a self-assessment system. That you, the hectare, you will go and determine what you have to give to the government. And then you tell us honestly, this is what I made, this is my income, these are my expenses, and my profit is this. That's how good the tax system in Uganda is. And then, from that tax system, we have had a progressive taxation system where the more you earn, the more tax you pay. The less you earn, so that's called a progressive tax system. So you declare what you earn, and then you declare what you have to pay. You know, government is a shareholder in your business. So when you're doing business, government is saying, if you earn income and then you earn also profit, pay something to deliver services that you expect the government to deliver. Government has been able to put in place leadership that is formidable at Uganda Revenue Authority that has managed to grow that revenue. The vision of this government is to make sure that they have an independent institution of Uganda Revenue Authority that is in position to collect over 90% of the government expenditure budget. And we hope that in the next 5 years corporate strategy, we have put in place formidable strategies to enable government to collect and fund 90% of its budget. And it is possible. It is possible because following the domestic revenue mobilization strategy, where government has put focus on import substitution and raising and growing capacity here locally, that taxpayers now can do most of the things or produce most of the produce that we are importing then. It has been vivid enough that our tax revenue domestically has been growing now at 60% versus the 40% that we get from the import. But also, we are hoping that this financial year, with the domestic revenue mobilization strategy in place, we are hoping that domestic revenue is going to grow tremendously. In the next 5 years, we are hoping that 90% of that revenue should be coming domestically. The strategy is that we put in place systems that will enable the taxpayer comply. For example, now you can pay online, you can file in your taxes online, you can register online. That is to enable you, make sure that you find the interaction with the taxman seamlessly and without any hectic issues that you will face. The purpose of the revenue administration system now is to make sure that we enable the economy. First of all, the strategy is to enable the economy, because once the taxpayers do not have the money in the pockets, then you would not have revenue. So that's why you find Uganda Revenue Authority involving itself in issues like financial literacy, educating taxpayers on how to handle business. So government has created an enabling environment where I've seen so many investors coming here because of the enabling environment that government has created. That to us is translated into revenue, and we want to appreciate government for that. The corporate plan streamlines 3 types of taxpayers. One, the potential taxpayer, and you know that Uganda Revenue Authority has been in schools, has been inculcating a syllabus of tax within the economics, within entrepreneurship. That is to enable the potential taxpayers understand, because these are the future of the nation. And you know that Uganda is a very young nation. So our focus is not to look at the current taxpayer, but also there's a future taxpayer that is growing up, that is also hopefully in the next 5 years will be the richest man or richest woman out there, and they will be able to understand these tax issues and willingly pay. But there is this taxpayer also who is still potential, but is still under the threshold. Because the tax system here is that when you are below the threshold, for example, if a business earns a turnover below 10 million, it means that this business is not under the tax, is not obliged to pay tax. But that put in place is that you don't leave the business that is still not in the threshold of paying tax. You continue educating that business, continue sensitizing, so that by the time they start paying tax and they grow, because they must budget for tax. Tax, as I said, is a debt to government. It is an expense. So when businesses are engaged, as they grow and they thrive, they make sure that they understand tax by the time they start paying. But also, you have to note that we have another taxpayer called the willing taxpayer. Now, the willing taxpayer is that taxpayer who basically understands what to do, but also knows that the purpose of taxes, really, if I have to pay, it's a civic duty. It's in the Bible. You know, taxation is in the Bible, started way back during the days of Jesus. The willing taxpayer understands all these concepts that I have to part with something to enable government deliver the services that I want to see, the roads that I want to see, the hospitals that I want to see, the medicine that I want to see, the salaries that the employees of government take. So then I am willingly paying my tax, even when I'm not maybe confident on what the taxes have done, but I willingly pay because it's a civic duty. But there is also that taxpayer that is unwilling to pay. They know what to do, or they don't know, but they have refused drastically to pay that tax. That we have also laid a strategy of making sure that we prosecute, but also we enforce on them. But those are the few, because our focus is to make sure that we enable the potential, but also we make it much easier for the willing. When the willing wants to pay tax, don't make it hard. Make sure that the systems are running. Make sure that there is no bureaucracy. They can easily engage with the taxman and pay what they have to pay.
There is no more stress. The condition continues to get better every morning. For us who used to eat one meal each day, we now have extra for sale. Thank you for giving us seeds. Now we can drink milk and eat eggs. We used to wake up scared and frightened, but now security is guaranteed. Children are immunized against killer diseases. Many roads are being constructed. Factories, communication, human rights have all increased. So many people have learned how to read and write. You have put a smile in every home around the country. We are with you all the way. We are with you all the time. We are with you in every situation, because we can see where we are going.
We have also seen government programs like TREP, Taxpayer Registration Expansion Program, where government has come together and said, if you are URSB, if you are local government, if you are KCCA, and you are Uganda Investment Authority, come under one roof. Don't make it easy, don't make it harder for the taxpayer. Come under one roof. If you are to register a business, get a tax identification number, get your investment certificate. If you are under UIA, if you have any issues with UIA, then come together as an institution and have one-stop shop. So we have seen us beginning to integrate and work together as government, so that we address the issues of the taxpayer as one. Because the taxpayer will ask, why do I have to go to KCCA to pay property tax? Then after I go to URA to pay rental, then after I have to run to register my business, then after. So government said, let's do a one-stop service center. In these local governments, we have 52 local governments in the country where we have formed offices, and you'll find, maybe if it's Masaka City, you'll find a URA official at the council, at the city council, you find a local government official, you also find a URSB. Because you register your business, you get tax identification number, then you get a trading license. And it is done in 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. But it's done you walking from one office to another. So that government has made it easier. But also, we used to hire, we used to rent. But you have seen the tower, okay? government put in money, taxpayers' money, to build this building. It is one of the tallest buildings in Uganda. You know, it is I think 20 floors, and we have been in this building for now 2 years, and it has enabled and cut costs on government, because previously when we used to rent and be in different offices, you will find it very difficult for you to merge and make decisions quickly. But now all the commissioners are here, all the decision-making sections are here, and we find it much easier to work together as staff, but also building culture of the organization. So, and also the taxpayer find it's much easier to have a headquarter service where he can come and if there's any issues, sort them out there and then. But also now, if I have a meeting with my colleague, I don't have to go to Crescent Towers where we used to be, or to go to Nakawa Business Park. I have to find them here. So decisions much easier. But also, of course, looking at the cost of renting, electricity, then water bills and other things, now it is much easier. So government has enabled us to work better, efficiently, by having a URA tower, which now houses Uganda Revenue Authority in one place. In those days, 1991, we used to have around 1,000, maybe 700 staff when URA was formed. Now we have 2,600 staff more. And that shows you that there has been growth, both in terms of capacity, but also in terms of support to make sure that we collect revenue. Yes, staff may not be enough still, but there has been some growth in the number of staff. And those are the staff that because we have footprint all over the country. We have over 58 stations, service centers in the country, because we have to make sure that we're in those places nearer the taxpayer. This year, government has given us a target of collecting 21 trillion. But also you know that government also has tasked Uganda Revenue Authority to collect most of the non-tax revenue. We collect immigration fees, we collect some school fees from public institutions, we collect stamp duty, we collect the police penalties. That is non-tax revenue. The reason is that Uganda Revenue Authority has put in place a system, a backbone system, to enable government centralized revenue collection in one place. One, it lessens the stress over the taxpayer, because now they know that they are paying one body and they go to the system and pay. And also it improves accountability. In 2005, there was a department categorically stated that department is mandated to fight corruption within the institution. That department is called the Internal Audit and Compliance Department. And it has been in position to have an independent eye on what we do, but also make sure that they promote compliance of staff. But also when the president visited, when he was opening this building, he called this place a holy ground. It is a holy ground in a sense that we are mandated with the delicate responsibility of collecting finances that fund the government, that fund the country. So we are chief fundraisers. The integrity comes first. Professionalism comes second. And patriotism. We put our country first. That without us collecting that revenue, that mother in the village will not get medicine. That's what brings us to the desk. We still have a journey, but I think the leadership here has put in place formidable structures to make sure that we fight corruption. In the region, we have seen so many government bodies, government agencies come here to benchmark. In fact, over the years, every year we receive around 15 revenue authorities that come to benchmark to Uganda Revenue Authority. One of the systems that we use here, called e-tax, is one of the best. We have won some of the accolades. I think you've seen them and you show them, accolades in the revenue administration as Uganda Revenue Authority. With the support of government, we've been able to be on the map. One of the biggest challenges is the informal sector. the growing informal sector, that taxpayer like you or me who should be on the tax register and is not. Currently, we have 1.6 million taxpayers on the tax register. Again, it's probably a possibility of having 7 million taxpayers on the tax register. I'm not saying the 45 million do not pay tax. They pay tax. There's indirect tax that they pay. You drink a soda, you pay tax. You take water, you pay tax. That is indirect tax. But there's being in business and also earning income. And that income is not captured or it is not declared that you have earned that income. That we call you informal because you're operating informally. Formally would operate that you have a taxpayer identification number and you're proud to have a taxpayer identification number. And we hope that with the strategic interventions that we've had and the support of government, like systems like digital tax stamps, okay, which have reduced tremendously illicit trade, but also doubled in terms of revenue we've been getting. Systems like electronic physical receipting invoicing solution. People have been trading and issuing invoices and receipts without record keeping. And now Uganda Revenue Authority has helped them to make sure that they can track records on their system. Electronic physical receipting solution is going to, and these are systems, by the way, our neighbors have started. And they started 5 years ago. COVID-19 has tremendously impacted on business. Some businesses may not recover. But we as Uganda Revenue Authority, because we have a human face, we put in place structures and policies that will enable these businesses to recover. One of the policies that the government put in place is to make sure that those that are not able to pay tax now can either request for payment in installments or, agree with us that they cannot pay now and they will pay later. In fact, government extended the payment period to September on most of the taxes, and even filing in returns. If you are not in position to file returns, you would request, and then they will extend the period to September from the time of March. And also, government has put in place a new amnesty. I don't know if you have heard about it, voluntary disclosure. That when a taxpayer comes beforehand and says, from the last 2, 3, 4 years or 1 year, I've been paying tax, but there is this tax that I have not been paying. And I know that in future you may get me, but I want to come clean. Or there's this tax that I have never paid, but I want to come clean. Because you see, we have systems in place like DTS, IFRIS, e-tax that is going to have AI, artificial intelligence, to know which tax you have not been paying, and then we come to audit, and then you have penalties and interest. So government has said, instead of you going through all that hassle, come clean, we forgive you the penalties and the interest of the last period where you have not paid. However, you must come clean when we are not aware that we have had this liability and we have been, if we have already demanding that liability. So it's better now that if you know that we have not come to you and you have a liability, to come clean. Some of those policies is to make sure that we enable this business to recover. We have had issues of VAT refunds. Government put in place a fund to make sure that that money is refunded fast. In fact, we work 24/7 now. Our staff make sure that they process those funds, and within a week, you get your VAT refunds. So in a nutshell, Uganda Revenue Authority is a body mandated to collect revenue, but also facilitate trade across borders. We have put in place systems that enable the trader or the stakeholder to collect this revenue. Where we have fallen short, it is an improvement and learning curve. And we have a bright future as a country that we can fund the budget wholesomely, 90% of our budget. We are believing that with the policies that government is putting in place, supporting livelihoods, supporting job opportunities, increasing of import substitution and manufacturing in local capacity here, we are hoping that domestic revenue will grow tremendously in the next 4 years. And our desire is to see us interact more with the stakeholders and the taxpayers and put in place a mechanism that enables you and me to pay tax than enforcing against you. That is our desire, that we can put in place an environment that enables businesses so that they can willingly comply and pay their civic and play their civic duty. That is our desire.
There is no